Dad's lawyer. Read the will. Everything goes to your sister. She smiled ATM me, but when she found out what Mom left me in secret before she died, her smile disappeared. Everything goes to your sister. Mr. Caldwell. Read for my father's will. His voice measured. Deliberate. The mahogany-paneled office felt smaller with each word, the weight of finality pressing down on me. I remained still, hands folded in my lap, while Jessica's smirk widened. Sunlight from the window caught the diamonds on her bracelet, the one Dad had gifted her last year, another reminder of his unwavering favoritism. At 32, I was witnessing the final act of my father choosing her over me, just as I expected. The properties at 1542, Pine Grove Avenue, 789, Lakeview Drive, and the summer home in Newport, all to Jessica Morgan Pierce. Mr. Caldwell continued adjusting his glasses. The family business Morgan Communications, including all assets and subsidiaries, to Jessica Morgan Pierce. Jessica leaned back in her chair, practically glowing. She had dressed for the occasion, a sleek black designer dress, perfectly manicured, nails, hairstyle with precision. She was everything my father valued, ambitious, obedient, married to the right man, mother to the right children. I, on the other hand, had disappointed him at every turn. A marine biologist instead of a corporate successor, divorced the husband he handpicked when I refused to tolerate his affairs, built my own life, my own success, one that didn't fit into my father's narrow definition of achievement. Was that all? Jessica asked. Her voice dripping with false sympathy, she turned to me with a practiced pout. Oh, Alexei, I'm so sorry, but you know how Def felt about your choices. I met her gaze without flinching. I'm well aware, Jess. Mr. Caldwell cleared his throat. There is a small personal effects account set aside for Alexandra, containing family photographs and some jewelry from your grandmother. Jessica laughed. Well, at least you got the family photos. Not sure where you'll put them in that tiny apartment of yours. I stood smoothing my dress. Are we finished here, Mr. Caldwell? The lawyer nodded, relieved. I wasn't making a scene. He probably seen enough inheritance battles to know they rarely ended cleanly. But I wasn't going to give Jessica the satisfaction of seeing me broken. Lexi, she called as I reached the door. Don't worry, I'll make sure you're taken care of. Maybe there's even a position for you at Morgan Communications, something entry-level, of course. I turned, offering her a small smile. That's generous, Jess, but I'll be just fine. The drive home was quiet, the trees lining the road tinged with gold and red. Mom had loved this time of year. She would have hated what Dad had done. Today my phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Dinner tonight, we should talk about your future. I ignored it, just as I had been ignoring her hollow gestures since Dad's funeral last week. Instead, I parked in front of my tiny apartment, a charming craftsman house I had bought mortgage-free 3 years ago. Inside, I went straight to my office, unlocked the bottom drawer and pulled out a thick manila envelope. Mom had given it to me 2 years ago, just months before her unexpected death. Don't open this until after your father's gone, she had said, her frail hands gripping mine. Promise me, Alexandra, I had promised. And now, as I carefully peeled back the flap, I finally understood why. Inside were documents, a lot of them. At the top was a letter in Mom's elegant handwriting. My dearest Alexandra, if you're reading this, then your father is gone, and I'm sure he's done exactly what I feared. Your father was a brilliant businessman, but he never understood what truly mattered. He let his pride and his outdated beliefs blind him to the most valuable thing he had, a daughter with vision, with integrity, with the heart to change the world. What he also never realized is that while he was building Morgan Communications, I was building something of my own. 20 years ago, I began investing in sustainable technology companies. Your research on marine conservation inspired me. While your father dismissed your work as youthful idealism, I saw the future. These holdings have grown considerably worth, far more than Morgan Communications. Everything is in your name, transferred slowly and legally over the years through a network of investments your father never thought to question. Jessica can't touch a cent of it. Use it wisely, my darling girl. Make the difference. I always knew you could. All my love, Mom. My hands trembled as I sifted through the documents, stock certificates, investment portfolios, offshore accounts, and empire quietly built under my father's nose. He'd never had a clue. The sheer scale of it made my head spin. My phone buzzed, another text from Jessica. Seriously, Lexi, we need to talk about arrangements. Dad would have wanted us to work together. I picked up my phone, my pulse steady this time. I replied, you're right, we should talk. Why don't you come over tomorrow morning? I have something to show you. That night I stayed up late poring over Mom's documents, marveling at her brilliance. She had invested in wind farms, solar technology, ocean cleanup initiatives, everything I had dedicated my career to. While Dad had dismissed my work as idealistic nonsense, Mom had been quietly securing the future. I thought about Jessica's smug expression in the lawyer's office, the way she'd always sided with Dad, always belittled my choices. Tomorrow she would finally see the truth. At exactly 10 a.m., the doorbell rang. Jessica stood on my doorstep in another designer outfit. Her expression, a calculated blend of concern and superiority. Her eyes flicked over my home, barely concealing her disdain. "Oh Lexi," she sighed, stepping inside. "We really need to talk about getting you set up properly. This isn't the kind of place a Morgan should be living in." I ignored her and led her to the dining room. "You're right, Jess, we do need to talk. There's something Mom wanted you to see." Her expression hardened slightly at the mention of Mom. They had never been close. Jessica was Dad's daughter through and through. "What are you talking about?" she asked. I gestured to the documents laid out on the table. "Take a look." Jessica's manicured fingers hesitated before reaching for the papers. I watched as her smirk slowly faded, replaced by disbelief. Her hands began to shake, her face drained of color, then flushed red with anger. This can't be real," she stammered. "Mom was just a housewife. She didn't know anything about business." I almost laughed. Mom had spent years playing the role of the quiet, supportive wife, letting Dad and Jessica talk business, while she built something bigger than either of them had ever imagined. "Oh, it's real," I said, my voice steady. "Every document is verified." Mom knew exactly what she was doing, and now so do I. Jessica sank into a chair, her perfect posture, faltering. But Dad's company, Morgan Communications, is yours. I finished for her, just like Dad wanted. But Mom's legacy, that belongs to me, and it's worth about 10 times what you inherited. Silence stretched between us, broken only by the soft tapping of Jessica's nails against the table. She was recalibrating, strategizing, trying to find her footing in this new reality. Finally she spoke, slipping into the smooth, persuasive tone she used in boardrooms. "We could work together, pool our resources, think about it, Lexi, with Morgan Communications, infrastructure, and these assets." "No, Jess," I cut her off. "That's not what Mom wanted, and it's not what I want. You got exactly what Dad intended for you. This is my path." Her mask slipped just for a second, revealing something raw beneath anger, maybe even fear. But she recovered quickly, standing abruptly, her heels clicking against the floor. "You're making a mistake," she said coolly. I smiled, "Maybe, but at least it's mine to make." Jessica stormed out, her expensive heels, striking the pavement with every furious step. I exhaled, feeling lighter than I had in years. Mom had been right. Success isn't always loud. Sometimes the quietest players make the biggest moves. I had work to do, because this wasn't just about wealth, it was about impact, and now I had the resources to make it happen. My phone buzzed one last time. "Jessica," and over Lexi. I glanced at the locked safe in my office where copies of every document were stored. I thought of my lawyer already making arrangements to secure Mom's legacy. I smiled as I typed my response. "You're right, it's just beginning." The morning after Jessica's world-shattering visit, I woke up to 14 missed calls and a flood of texts from relatives. Word had spread quickly. Jessica had made sure of that. "Alexandra, this is Aunt Patricia. How could you do this to your sister? Your father would be devastated. And Michael, here, let's talk business. I have some great investment opportunities. Hey, because remember when we used to play together as kids, we should catch up." I sighed, muting my phone. Mom had always taught me the value of boundaries, and today I had no time for family drama. There was work to do. My first stop was Harrison and Associates, the law firm that had quietly managed Mom's empire for years. Unlike Caldwell, Dad's pompous corporate attorney, Sarah Harrison was sharp, modern, and unshakable. "Right on schedule," Sarah said as I stepped into her office. "Your mother predicted Jessica will try to contest this." Within days of finding out, I settled into the chair across from her desk. "What's our next move?" Sarah pulled out a thick folder, her lips curving slightly. "Your mother left very specific instructions. She knew Jessica would try to challenge the holdings, likely claiming your mother was mentally unfit when she made these arrangements." I scoffed. "That sounds exactly like Jessica, which is why your mother built an airtight case." Sarah's eyes gleamed as she slid a stack of documents toward me. She spent years documenting everything: business meetings, investment decisions, even recordings of conversations with financial advisors. "It's all here. Your mother wasn't just running an empire, she was playing the long game. A slow, admiring smile spread across my face. Mom had been 10 steps ahead of everyone, and there's more. Sarah continued pulling out another document. Your mother also left instructions regarding Morgan Communications. She suspected your father's company might try to obstruct some of her environmental initiatives, so she put certain measures in place. As Sarah laid out the details, I felt something settle in my chest, not just relief, but clarity. Mom hadn't just left me wealth, she had left me a strategy. My next stop was the University Laboratory of Dr. James Chen, one of the leading researchers in ocean pollution prevention. Mom's files had revealed that she'd been anonymously funding his work for years. The lab was nothing like Morgan Communications, sleek, glass-walled offices, no marble floors, no expensive art, just linoleum tiles, cluttered workbenches and scientific posters. It felt more like home than Dad's world ever had. Dr. Chen's eyes widened as I introduced myself. Your mother was our anonymous benefactor. We've been trying to thank her for years. She believed in your work. I said, placing a contract on his desk, and I want to increase the funding. It's time to take this research to the next level. As we discussed expansion plans, my phone kept buzzing. Jessica, this time via email. You can't just walk away from family responsibility. Dad built this legacy for both of us. I stared at the words, thinking about Dad's legacy, ruthless business tactics, environmental negligence, manipulation. Then I thought about Mom's sustainable innovation, careful planning, quiet strength. The choice was obvious. That evening, as I pulled into my driveway, I spotted Jessica's Mercedes parked in front of my house. She was sitting on my porch steps. Her perfect hair slightly disheveled, her expression unreadable. She stood as I approached. We need to talk, really talk, Lexi. I unlocked my door, letting her follow me inside. Unlike yesterday, she didn't comment on my house or my furniture. I spoke to the board at Morgan Communications today. She began pacing my living room. Our stock dropped when news got out about Mom's sustainable technology holdings. Investors are nervous. I leaned against the arm of my couch, arms crossed. It was like a you problem, Jessica whirled. To face me, it's an us problem. She snapped. This is our family's reputation we're talking about. Do you have any idea what people are saying? That Dad was so obsessed with grooming me for leadership that he missed Mom building something bigger right under his nose. They're calling him short-sighted, outdated. They're not wrong. Jessica stopped pacing, her face flushing. How can you be so cold? This is Dad we're talking about. Yes, the same Dad who cut me out of his will because I refused to follow his blueprint. The same Dad who mocked my work, dismissed my choices. I met her gaze steadily. The same Dad who taught you to do the same. Jessica flinched. I never. But she didn't finish because we both knew the truth. She had laughed right alongside him when he called my research a waste of time, when he sneered at Mom's idealistic nonsense. Sit down, Jess, I said softly. Let me show you something. I opened my laptop and pulled up a presentation I've been working on. These are projections for the next 10 years, despite change, impact on coastal businesses, environmental regulation trends, sustainable technology, market growth. I clicked through the slides, letting the data speak for itself. Dad's business model is dying. Mom saw it coming years ago. Jessica leaned in her business mind wearing Morgan Communications could adapt. She said slowly. With the right partnerships, you be with my money. I corrected, with your investment. She countered, think about it, Lexi, we could honor both our parents' legacies. Search the company's modernized Dad's approach while you remain in control. I asked, raising an eyebrow. That's not happening, Jess. I'm done living in your shadow trying to prove I'm worthy of the Morgan name. Her expression tightened. Is that what this is about, revenge? I shut my laptop. No, it's about finally doing things my way. Mom gave me that freedom. Jessica didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, almost vulnerable. I don't know how to do this without you, Lexi. Dad always said we were stronger together. Dad said a lot of things. I held her gaze, but he was wrong about most of them. After she left, I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped onto the back porch. The evening air smelled like autumn, crisp, fresh, full of change. I pulled out my phone and opened the email I've been drafting all day. Dear Morgan Communications Board of Directors, my name is Alexandra Morgan and I'm writing to address the recent revelations about my mother's sustainable technology holdings. It was time to make my own moves. Jessica was right about one thing, this was just the beginning. The next morning, another storm arrived in the form of Uncle Robert. Dad's younger brother, a Morgan Communications board member, showed up unannounced at my door. "Your father would be turning in his grave," he declared, skipping a greeting, letting Morgan Communications stock price take a hit like this. I let him rant, barely listening. He'd always been Dad's echo, rolling his eyes at my tree. Hug or nonsense at family dinners. "Are you finished?" I asked when he finally paused for breath. "Alexandra, be reasonable," he said, switching tactics. "The family name is exactly what I'm protecting." I folded my arms while you and Dad clung to outdated business practices. Mom was building something sustainable, something future-proof. His face reddened. "Your mother didn't understand business. She was just the woman who outmaneuvered all of you. I offered the one who built a billion-dollar empire while you weren't paying attention." His mouth pressed into a hard line. "You're making a mistake." "No," I said evenly. "I'm fixing yours." He left in a fury, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. I had a feeling future family gatherings were going to be very interesting, but I didn't have time to dwell on it. I had a meeting with a team of environmental scientists struggling to fund their coral reef restoration project. Thanks to Mom, I could help. As I drove, I thought about how much had changed in just a few days. Mom's gift wasn't just financial freedom. It was the power to make a real difference. My phone buzzed, another text from Jessica. "Board meeting tomorrow. Last chance to work together on this." I smiled, thinking of the email I'd sent last night, the plans already in motion. "Good luck with the meeting. I have other commitments." It was time to create my own legacy. The morning of Morgan Communications board meeting arrived with unexpected news. Their stock had plunged another 15% in pre-market trading. My phone buzzed with a headline from the Wall Street Journal: "Morgan Communications faces investor exodus amid sustainability crisis." I was in my home office reviewing research proposals when Jessica burst in, still in her boardroom at Hire. Her perfectly tailored suit did nothing to hide the fury in her eyes. "What did you do?" she demanded, slamming a stack of papers onto my desk. "Half our major investors are threatening to pull out." I glanced at the printouts, emails from Morgan Communications, largest institutional investors, concerns over environmental impact, questions about outdated business practices, warnings about market instability. I leaned back in my chair. "Funny how transparency works, isn't it?" Jessica's voice sharpened. "Transparency. You sent environmental impact reports to our investors, reports that your research helped compile, not mine." I corrected. "Those reports came from independent environmental agencies. I just made sure the right people saw them." Jessica dropped into a chair, her composure fracturing. "The board is in panic mode. They're talking about emergency measures, maybe even selling off divisions just to stay afloat." I nodded. "They should be worried. Mom's companies are announcing major sustainability initiatives tomorrow, breakthrough tech that makes Morgan Communications look like a fossil." Jessica exhaled sharply. "You're destroying everything Dad built." I met your gaze. "No, Jess, Dad destroyed it himself by refusing to adapt. Mom warned him for years about sustainability and modernization. He ignored her." Jessica's fingers tightened into fists. "And this is your revenge. This is business." My voice was cold, just like Dad's had always been. "Isn't that what he taught us? The market evolves, companies adapt, or they die." Before Jessica could reply, my phone rang. Sarah Harrison turned on CNBC. She said something's happening. I switched on the TV. Jessica turned her face, straining of color as the breaking news ticker scrolled across the screen. "Morgan Communications board calls emergency session, CEO position under review." Jessica's breath hitched. They can't do this." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm Dad's chosen successor." But they could, and they was already dissecting the board's decision, how Jessica had failed to anticipate market shifts, how Morgan Communications was hemorrhaging investors, how the company had fallen behind on sustainability. Sarah's voice cut through. "The moment the board is receiving another packet of documents, your mother's reports detailing every mistake Morgan Communications made and exactly how they could have adapted." Jessica turned back to me, realization dawning. "You planned this." I shook my head. "Wrong again, Jess, what's happening?" "But I do want the world to see why his way of doing business doesn't work anymore." My phone buzzed again, an email from Dr. Chen. His team had breakthrough results on the ocean cleanup project. "You should get back to your meeting," I said. "Standing sounds like they have a lot to discuss." Jessica rose slowly, squaring her shoulders. "This isn't over, Alexandra. I gave her a knowing smile. Actually it is. Mom made sure of that. That afternoon I drove to the university to meet Dr. Chen and his team. The lab was buzzing with excitement. This could revolutionize ocean cleanup efforts. Dr. Chen explained, showing me the data, and with the funding you provided, we can scale it globally. I thought about Dad, his disdain for environmental efforts, his obsession with short-term profits over long-term impact. Mom had seen a different future. Now I was the one making it a reality. That evening Sarah called again. The board meeting just ended. She said Jessica's been removed as CEO. I exhaled slowly, letting the weight of it settle. They're bringing in an interim leader while they reassess the company's direction. I already knew Jessica wouldn't take it. Well. How's she handling it? Sarah hesitated. She's threatening legal action, claiming family rights to the position. Let her, I said. The shareholders won't support her, not after today. Sarah sighed, there's more. Some board members are suggesting a merger with your mother's companies. They think it's the only way to save Morgan Communications. I almost laughed. That's company begging for salvation from the very environmental initiatives. He mocked, not interested. Sarah sounded unsurprised. That's who I thought you'd say. After hanging up, I opened my laptop reviewing the final details for tomorrow's press conference. Mom's legacy was alive, thriving, just as she had planned. My phone buzzed again, Uncle Robert. His text was brief, the family name, Alexandra. Think about what you're doing to the family name. I thought about Mom quietly building something meaningful while Dad and Jessica chased profits and power. I thought about the years of being dismissed, belittled, made to feel like I didn't belong. I glanced at Uncle Robert's text again, the family name Alexandra. Think about what you're doing to the family name. I let out a slow breath and typed my response, I am thinking about the family name. I'm giving it a future. That night, as I went over my speech for tomorrow's press conference, I found an old photo album tucked away in my desk drawer. The first photo, Mom at my college graduation, beaming with pride as I accepted my marine biology degree. Dad and Jessica hadn't been there. They had a business meeting. Another picture, Mom in her garden kneeling in the soil teaching me about ecosystems. When I was little, she had always nurtured my curiosity, encouraged my need to protect the environment, even when the rest of the family laughed at it, and now I understood she had been playing the long game all along, preparing me for this moment. My phone buzzed again, a news alert, Morgan Communications stock hits 5-year low amid leadership crisis. I closed the article and opened my email instead. Dr. Chen's final presentation was waiting for review. Tomorrow, we would introduce the world to a different way of doing business, one that valued sustainability over greed, innovation over stagnation. Jessica might still be clinging to Dad's company, but I had something better, Mom's vision for the future and the power to make it real. This wasn't just the next chapter of my life. It was the next chapter of the Morgan legacy, and this time it would be written on my terms. Another text interrupted my thoughts, Jessica. They're destroying everything Dad built. Please, Lexa, help me fix this. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Some things aren't meant to be fixed, Jess, they're meant to be transformed. 1 year after, Mom's revelations change everything. I stood at a podium overlooking the Pacific Ocean behind me. The first of our large-scale ocean cleanup systems was launching a dream I carried since graduate school, now made real through Mom's legacy. I took a steadying breath, then addressed the crowd of reporters, scientists and investors gathered before me. Today isn't just an environmental victory. It's proof that business and responsibility aren't opposing forces. Success isn't measured by quarterly profits alone, but by the legacy we leave for future generations. As I scanned the audience, my eyes landed on Jessica. She sat in the back row, quieter than I'd ever seen. Her less polished, more human. Morgan Communications had undergone a complete transformation over the past year, but not in the way Jessica had once envisioned. After her removal as CEO, the board had made the unthinkable decision to dismantle the company. Its divisions were sold off to organizations with stronger environmental ethics. The Morgan name, once synonymous with corporate power, had taken on a new meaning when my speech ended and the cleanup system hummed to life. Jessica approached the podium. Nice speech, she said. Her voice softer, stripped of its usual edge. Mom would have been proud. I studied her carefully, no resentment, no defensiveness. How are you, Jess, really? She hesitated, then offered a small wry smile, surviving. It's different, not being Jessica Morgan CEO, but maybe that's not entirely bad. We walked along the shoreline watching the cleanup system in action. The technology was already showing promising results in early trials. After a long silence, Jessica spoke. You know what I realized? I spent so many years trying to be exactly what Dad wanted that I never stopped to think about what I wanted. I turned to her, and what do you want? She exhaled slowly, watching the waves. I've been volunteering at a marine education center teaching kids about ocean conservation. It's kind of amazing seeing their faces light up when they understand something new. A genuine smile broke across my face. Mom would have loved that. Yeah, Jessica murmured she would have. Later that afternoon, Sarah Harrison arrived at my office with the latest reports. Mom's companies had tripled in value but, more importantly, our environmental initiatives were making a measurable impact. There's something else. Sarah said, sliding an envelope onto my desk. We found this in your mother's old files. She left instructions for it to be delivered today. I unfolded the letter, my breath catching at the sight of Mom's familiar handwriting. My dearest Alexandra, if you're reading this, a year has passed since you learned about your inheritance. I hope you've used this time wisely, and from what I arranged to have monitored, I believe you have. But there's one last thing I need you to understand. Your sister, despite everything, is still your sister. Jessica was just as much a victim of your father's rigid worldview as you were. She simply coped differently. Now that his influence is gone, she might surprise you. I've left instructions with Sarah for a separate fund, one dedicated to environmental education initiatives. If Jessica has shown any sign of change, any willingness to see the world differently, I want you to offer her the chance to manage it. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in defeating our enemies but in helping them become better people. Oh, I love Mom. I sat back in my chair absorbing Mom's final lesson. Even now she was teaching me not about strategy or business, but about grace and wisdom. That evening I invited Jessica over for dinner as we sat on the back porch. Autumn air crisp around us. I told her about Mom's letter and the education fund. You don't have to decide right away, I said carefully. But if you're serious about the marine education work, Jessica, cut me off. Why would you trust me with this? After everything, I thought about Mom's words, because sometimes people deserve a chance to rewrite their story. Jessica swallowed hard, blinking away unexpected tears. I was awful to you for years. I helped Dad tear you down because it made me feel more secure about my own place in his world. I know I said simply, but that's not who you have to be anymore. Over the next few months, Jessica threw herself into the work. She attacked the challenge of building education programs with the same intensity she once used for corporate takeovers. It was strange at first, working together instead of against each other. But Mom had been right. People could change if, given the chance, the final piece fell into place. On what would have been Mom's birthday, Jessica and I stood in her garden, the one I had maintained all these years. Jessica touched a rose bush gently. Mom used to try to get me interested in gardening when we were kids. She'd talk about ecosystems and balance in nature. I never listened. I was too busy memorizing Dad's business lessons. I smiled. She never gave up hope, though not for either of us. Jessica turned to me, her eyes serious. I'm sorry, Lexi, for everything. I was so focused on being Dad's daughter that I forgot how to be Mom's too. For the first time in years, I pulled my sister into a hug. Mom knew what she was doing, I whispered. She saved both of us, just in different ways. That night I sat in my office reviewing the latest reports from our ocean cleanup projects. On my wall hung two photos, one of Mom in her garden kneeling in the dirt teaching me about nature, and a new one, Jessica, teaching a group of children about marine conservation. Her face alight, with genuine joy. Mom's legacy wasn't just about money or companies. It was about transformation of the environment, our family and ourselves. She had played the longest game of all, ensuring not just financial success but the possibility of healing and growth. My phone buzzed, a text from Jessica. Kids asked about adding a hands-on marine biology program, thought you might want to help design it. I smiled, thinking about Mom's final letter. Count me in. I replied because sometimes the best kind of victory isn't about winning or losing, it's about changing the game entirely. Mom had understood that all along, and now, finally, so did we.
Kobe House CD Choice Cactus Juice 是 Kobe Daddy 在直播平台开始售卖的。过去的1年，帮助了很多的小孩子啊、大人啊、老人家。如果你家孩子生病的时候，不妨给他喝1/3包，或者你是怀孕晚期的妈妈也可以喝。如果是开刀的人，喝一定是在2个星期，每一天2包，会帮助你快速的痊愈。为什么这个仙人掌会帮助呢？ 当我们身体发烧发炎的时候，喝这一个 cactus 它是帮助我们抗炎、消炎还有抗氧化，所以它是属于良性的，喝进去立刻会帮助我们看到很明显的效果。